Hey guys, this is video C for 2-4, and we're finding percent of change today. So that's what we want you to be able to do, is to find the percent of change. This is applicable to lots of things in real life, like the stock market, 401k plans for retirement, if you're in a store. So there's all kinds of ways you'll use this. In this particular example, 25 is decreased to 20. Okay, so these are all kind of the key pieces of information for us. Number one, we're going down from 25 to 20. And the way to find the percent of change is super simple. The amount of change goes in the numerator, or in this case 5. There's a difference of 5 between 25 and 20. That makes sense. And then that goes over or is divided by the original amount. And in this case, the original amount is 25. So when we write it as a fraction, the next step is to turn it into a percent. And to do that, we turn it into a decimal and then turn it to a percent. And many of you guys know this, or all of you do, that the numerator goes under the house, and that's how one way we turn a fraction into a decimal. But I'm going to take a shortcut. Because I know that 25 goes into 104 times, I'm going to multiply numerator and denominator by 4. And that's going to get me 20 over 100, or 20 hundredths, which is the same thing as 20%. So I took a small shortcut and didn't have to do long division, which is always nice. So what this means is we've decreased 20%. And so I would write that. I would write decrease of 20%. And that would be my final answer. Let's do 2 more examples. Okay, let's take this example. 32 is increased to 67. So this is my starting number, this is the direction I'm going, and this is my ending number. I need to find the amount of change. So one way to do that is to simply subtract. 67 take away 32 gets me 35. So the amount of change was 35, and that needs to go over the original amount, which was 32. So right off the bat, I know that this fraction right here is going to get me a percent that's over 100. The reason I know this is over 100% is because 35 is greater than 32. So this is more than 1. And more than 1 is more than 100%. So instead of making you sit here and watch me do long division, I'm going to use a calculator. 35 divided by 32 turns this into the decimal that I want it to be. And I get 1.09375. As a rule of thumb, you might consider rounding your decimals off to the nearest 10,000th place so that you have an accuracy in your percent up to 100th of a percent. Let me show you what I mean. Find the 10,000th place and round the decimal off to that. Okay, so I'm going to round it off to the 10,000th place here where the 7 is. I'm going to look to the right and high five rule, so we got to go up. So this decimal becomes 1.0938. And when I turn that into a percent, I'm moving my decimal point twice to the right, or multiplying it by 100. So I say, okay, what's my final answer? I have an increase of 109 and 3800%. Let's talk about this to make sure it totally makes sense to us. If I doubled 32, okay, let's just say I doubled 32 by adding them together, I will get 64. Where we went, though, was 67. So if I had just gone up by 100%, I would have landed at 64. But I went up more than 100%. So this answer makes sense. I went up 109.38%. So always make sure that your final answer fits the problem. Okay, I more than doubled my original number. Therefore, it makes sense that I'd have more than 100% of increase. All right, this is going to be the last example problem we do here. This is a problem if you're like in a store. And imagine that you're looking for an MP3 player, and the regular price of this MP3 player is $79.99. But it's now on sale, and the new price is $59.99. What was the percent of decrease between the original price and the sale price? Well, first we need to find that amount of change between the two numbers. And many of you might already see what this amount of change is, but just to be safe, I'm going to do some subtraction here. And it's indeed what I expected it to be, of 20. So it's a $20 difference. And we have to divide that by the original amount of $79.99. Again, I'm going to use a calculator for this. However, I know right off the bat that 20 is 1/4 or 25% of 80. So I'm going to expect this to be basically 25%. In fact, it's probably going to round to 25%. Let's double check though. Okay, so that's kind of what I expected here. So we get 0.250031. Let's talk about how to round this. Again, remember, it's okay to round these decimals to the 10,000ths place. Whoops, that's a horrible arrow. Let me try that again. It's okay to round these off in the context in which we're doing these problems. So that would make this 0.2500, because when we look to the right at this 3 here, we don't have to go up. And when we change this to a percent by moving the decimal point twice, it's 25%. So there was a decrease of 25% between the original price and the sale price. Or in other words, this MP3 player is on sale, 25% off. That's a great deal. That gives you $20 extra to save towards your retirement or to save for college. Isn't that awesome? Okay, so I think you guys can do great on this. Let's talk about calculators. Some of you are going to look at some of these problems. You're going to go, wow, there's some pretty hard division here. I wish I could use a calculator. Here's the deal. I will let you use the calculator for one problem and one problem only. So that's your lifeline. So if you take your worksheet and look very closely at it, identify the problem for which you want to use a calculator. Then raise your hand and call me over real quick, and I'll mark the problem you're going to use a calculator on so you don't get, in trouble for cheating. And that's the only one you'll be allowed to use it on. And I think it's fair for you to have to divide a bit. It's good practice. I know I did in 7th grade. You'll do very good on this. All right, guys, have fun. Signing off here.